This week in the Mainly Moonology podcast, I'm going to give you an overview of the astrology for 2024. And I'm also going to give you all the details you need to do a chart that I know so many of you absolutely love. And it's not just me talking about it, but it's actually the person who taught me the chart. So you're going to get proper teaching on how to do that famous Hari Om chart. This week, I'm just going to start off with a chant, which I know many of you absolutely love. It's the chakra-clearing chant, which I was taught in India quite a few years ago now. I've never taught it per se, because there's a lot to it, and I've never felt qualified to teach it. I've only felt qualified to share it. But this week, I'm actually going to throw to an interview I've done with Natalie, the person who taught me this chant in India on the rooftop of the ashram guest house, where I've been going to this ashram for about 20 years, and you're going to find out all about this chant and how to do it. But let's just start with the chant, and then I'm going to tell you about the astrology of 2024, and then we'll go into learning about the chant. So here we go. Just close your eyes and just let the sound just wash over you. Hari Om Nam Lam Vam Vam Sim Ram Vam Yam Yam Ham Shiva Ram Swaha. That is the famous chakra-clearing chant, and if you listen to the end of this podcast, I'm talking to Natalie, the wonderful woman who taught me that podcast on the rooftop of a guest house in India quite a few years ago, and there's a little story that goes with it as well. Just wanted to start with that, but before we get into the whole chanting thing, let's just talk about the astrology of 2024. I want to give you an overview. I'm actually going to refer a little bit to my beautiful Moonology Diary 2024, and I'm actually going to read you something from the back of the Moonology Diary 2024. If you don't have it yet, I'm recording this in December, so I'm not sure if there will be any copies left by January. You never know your luck. Try and get a copy if you don't have one already. It really does contain the keys to success for 2024. So even on the back, just a good summary of the year. Transformation and joy are the key themes of 2024. Now, why did I say that? Because what we have in 2024 is we have the planet of transformation, Pluto, changing signs 3 times. So it's moving into Aquarius this month, it's moving back into Capricorn in September, and then it's moving back into Aquarius in November. And Pluto is the planet of transformation and takes hundreds of years to go around the zodiac. The fact that it's flipping backwards and forwards from Aquarius to Capricorn to Aquarius to Capricorn to Aquarius, blah, 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 starts in Capricorn, goes to Aquarius, goes back to Capricorn, then goes to Aquarius this year. It means it's going to be really triggered. And when a planet changes signs is when we feel it most. So expect to be feeling Pluto a lot this year. And if you happen to be someone who's got Pluto opposite your sun, or conjunct your ascendant, or squaring your Venus, or harmonizing with your Venus, you're going to feel it even more. It's a really good time to get an astrology reading if you want a recommendation. I highly recommend the wonderful Cassandra Tyndall in Australia. She'll do you a reading. She does personal readings. So, and joy. The reason why transformation and joy are the themes in 2024 is because the most active planet this year is actually Jupiter, and Jupiter is the planet of joy. We have Jupiter harmonizing with Uranus in April, harmonizing with Neptune in May, changing signs, moving into Gemini at the end of May, and then harmonizing with Pluto, clashing with Saturn in August, and then harmonizing with healing planetoid Chiron in October, November, before finally re-squaring off with Saturn on Christmas Eve 2024, which is something to look forward to, or not. So yeah, really very interesting. a year for transformation, and also a year that is about the phoenix that rises from the ashes. So if you feel like your life is in ashes right now, if you feel like you've just been burned up in the last year or two, then this year 2024 is going to help you, because Pluto is so prevalent, so triggered this year, so prominent, and Pluto has the phoenix rising from the ashes feel to it. Okay, Pluto, the planet that represents life, death and rebirth, the phoenix that rises from the ashes, Pluto, the planet that makes rebirth possible, is really triggered this year. And further good news is also about the joy and optimism that comes from Jupiter after this transformation. So just again, reading from the diary, the year's astrological highlights include, so the powerful backwards and forwards moves of Pluto in and out of Aquarius in January, September and November, as I mentioned. Some very lucky Jupiter action spread throughout the year, and the most challenging aspect between Jupiter and Saturn in August and December. Because Jupiter is involved, it shouldn't be too bad. Okay, and I drill down into all of this in the monthly sections in the diary. And I just want to mention as well, while I'm doing this really big general overview, I do also want to mention the eclipses. Okay, so eclipses are like new moons and full moons on steroids. To paraphrase the wonderful late US astrologer and moon lover Sophia Mason, if a new moon triggers you to find $5 in your pocket, a new moon eclipse could see you finding $50 in your pocket. So the eclipses this year, FYI, are taking place in Libra, in Aries, in Pisces, and then again in Libra. All the details are in my Moonology diary, and in fact in the diary, when it comes to those eclipses, there is a section that tells you how to work with each new moon or full moon or eclipse. So it says flick over to page whatever. All you have to do is read it up, and you will know exactly what is going on in your chart as the year unfolds. So let us focus on transformation and joy as this year begins. That is what the astrology is offering us. If you do have the eclipses in either your sign or your rising sign, it does mean it's going to be a pretty memorable time for you, so very much worth paying attention. But one of the most important things that I can ask you to do, or suggest that you do as we go into the year, bearing in mind that those of us in the Moonology community love manifesting, okay? So one of the best ways to be a really powerful manifester is to clear your energy, so you're not full of upset and anger. This is the first Moonology podcast of the new year, so it's a time to really let go of all the SHIT and CRAP from last year, from the year before, from any time in your life. So how do you do that? Well, one of the best ways I know is to chant, and one of the best chants I know is a chant that I started this podcast with that so many of you love, the chakra-clearing chant. I sometimes call it the Hari Om chant, but I shouldn't call it that because it's not really its name. It's the chakra-clearing chant. And it was a chant that was taught to me in India by my teacher, Sri Shakti Narayani Amma, and I'll just tell you a really quick story and then I'm going to teach you about the chant. So what happened was, I was in India, I think it would have been 6 years ago maybe, and I went to the ashram, and then on the last day that I was there, this wonderful woman called Natalie, who I'm going to introduce you to in a minute, she sort of collared me as I was literally like 2 or 3 hours away from leaving, having had an amazing time at the ashram, about to go and fly back to London. She said, "Yasmin, I'd like to teach you a chant." And I was like, oh, okay. And Natalie lives at the ashram. So that's actually a blessing in itself. You don't get to live at the ashram unless you've got, you know, quite good spiritual alignment. Not to say she doesn't have her own challenges. Of course she does. We all do. She's human. But it's a blessing to be allowed to live at the ashram. Anyway, so I'm like, okay, fine. She said, let's go up onto the rooftop of the guest house. I'm like, you can learn it there, which is beautiful because it's up and you see all the, there's plants up there, and well, there was then, I don't know, I haven't been there for about, well, I haven't been there since before the pandemic. They may have changed things, but anyway, so we went up to the rooftop and Natalie chanted me this chant, which I did at the start of today's podcast, and which I'll do again when I'm with her, in a minute with the interview. And she taught it to me, and I remember saying, gosh, how do you remember it? Because I'll explain what it is, but it's all these different Sanskrit sounds that clear your vibration through your chakras one by one. I said, how do you remember it? She said, I don't know, you just remember it. And that was, years ago. And now I remember it. And now I know lots of you remember it because you've heard me do it. Anyway, so that was fine. And then when I got back to London, I talked to someone who I thought knew a fair bit about mantra. So I kind of like disregarded it because, which was ridiculous, because I know that anything that happens at the ashram in India happens for a reason. It's just one of those places. It's a very high vibrational, amazing place. It's the Sri Narayani Peedam in Tirumalakodi, if you want to look into it. Anyway, so I completely forgot about it, moved on, and it so happened I went back to the ashram 3 months later. I don't often get to go so often, but I did that year. And I went back to the ashram, and I've been there for a few days, and then there's this other wonderful woman called Chamundai, who's actually a former corporate lawyer turned spiritual teacher. I know 2 people who are former lawyers turned spiritual teachers. Anyway, so Chamundai said to me, was saying in the dining hall of the guest room, so she was saying, so does anyone want to learn a mantra, a particular mantra I have to teach from the teacher, from Narayani Amma? And I was like, yeah, I'll learn a mantra. I love mantras. And so she's like, okay, cool. So about 3 of us gathered in her room, and in the afternoon we're all there. Okay, teach us this mantra. Off she goes. Chamundai starts teaching this mantra, and of course, what mantra is it? It's the one that I learned on the roof with Natalie 3 months earlier and disregarded because my ego, thought I knew better. And of course, I got the message, which was Spirit, the Divine Mother, wants you to learn this mantra. And so now I would like you to learn this mantra from someone who really knows how to do it, what she's talking about, and that is Natalie, who is staying at my house for a few days. And I said to her, Natalie, can we just sit down and talk about the chakra clearing mantra? People love it. I would love you to teach people about it. And she said, sure. So here's our conversation. Thank you for joining me today. I'm wishing you all the best for the start of the new year. Learn this mantra. Honestly, it will make your 2024 even better.